Hi, Annalisa Six here from Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the 2023 February horoscope for the sign of Aquarius for Sun and Rising. I'm gonna fix this part of my hair before I get started. Every video since I started recording today, I just can't seem to get my hair to not be doing something that's bugging me. Is that better? Kind of, not really. I don't know. Maybe I need not a white backdrop because it makes that stuff more noticeable. Aquarius, it is your season. February Aquariuses, happy birthday. The sun is shining on you right now. February is a pretty good month for you overall. I mean, it's a better month for all of us because we're not in retrograde season anymore, but especially for you because we've had Venus passing through Aquarius up until the last few days for the month of January. And then Venus moved into Pisces at the end of January and is now in Pisces for February. And then Mercury starts out in Capricorn in February and is going to be moving into your sign of Aquarius. So we have some more Aquarian energy adding to the mix of February besides just the sun and Saturn. So that's really positive for you. We're going to talk about Mercury and make our way through. So Mercury has been in Capricorn since December, and it stationed retrograde at the end of December, went direct in January. We went through that shadow period and now we're out. And so we start out February with Mercury in Capricorn for a couple more weeks. And where this is hitting in your horoscope chart is the area that rules the subconscious. And so here, when Mercury's passing through, dreams are highly elevated. Things that were maybe hidden to us start to come and reemerge through the subconscious into more of our understanding. It's also a time where we're more prone to want to gravitate towards escapism or things in the fantasy realms. And so we do need to be really mindful if we struggle with alcohol or drugs that we're not going into those too hard when Mercury is in this area. But it's also a really good time to be sitting with that and thinking about the areas that you are trying to escape in mundane life or your relationship to your mundane reality and how that impacts your spirituality or how your relationship to your spirituality affects your mundane reality. This is a really good time for you to develop a strong spiritual practice. It has been since Mercury entered this area in December. And so doing rituals or spiritual practices that put you at ease or put you into alignment is really supported for the first part of February. Once Mercury moves into Aquarius, which is on February 11th, this is going to be in the area of the horoscope chart that has to do with your identity and how you have personal confidence around who you are to yourself. And so if you're going through a period over February where you're really reflecting on who you are, whether or not the person that you are, you identify with, and ways that you can feel more authentic to yourself, that's a huge theme for you for February. So pretty much February 11th through the rest of the month, your identity is up for review and reflection, and you might be wanting to make some moves around your identity. So you might want to change some things, especially since Aquarius is the energy that represents change and revolution and improving upon things. So if you're feeling like you want to better yourself or do something that you perceive as an evolution of self that is positive for the direction you want to move into, Mercury is there supporting it. Venus has already activated some of that energy back in January. So you might have been feeling this since January because Venus was passing through that area up until the last few days of January. So Venus, might have shed some light on some things that you felt like you wanted to do, and then Mercury might be coming in where it's like, okay, let's start really figuring out a plan to make these things happen. One of the things that is really beneficial when you're going through an identity shift, I don't necessarily want to say crisis because it's not always a crisis. Sometimes we can just feel that we're ready to shift something about ourselves, is a vision board, whether it's a physical vision board or even on Pinterest, especially in a new year. Like it can be kind of fun to start some vision boards at the beginning of the year or the season to symbolize, what it is you want to manifest or call into your life, and doing that around your identity is positive. I feel like identity work can feel a little bit confusing for some people who are more analytical or reality focused. And so if you're the type of Aquarius that has a hard time seeing the bigger vision, which I think is a lot of Aquarians I know are really great at seeing a bigger vision. But if that's something that you struggle with, the thing that can kind of help you break out of your mindset is vision boarding and having no rules with it. So a lot of times we'll be like, oh, I can't put that on my vision board because it's not realistic for me, or I shouldn't Pinterest that because there's no way I would ever have that or be able to afford it. Don't have that mindset when you're vision boarding. The way that I was taught to vision board by my teacher is that you basically cut out or put anything on that you feel attracted to. So it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's realistic or unrealistic or weird or it doesn't make any sense. You just, if you're drawn to it, you set it aside and then you put it on your board where it makes sense. And there's certain symbols, you know, in different things that call different things out of us. So even if it's like, you know, a lot of times I have a lot of different animals on my vision board, even if it's like, oh yeah, I'm never going to own this animal, or I might never see this animal in everyday mundane life, the symbol of that animal, what it represents, it has something to it. You know, I'm really into like animal totems and what they mean in dreams and stuff like that. And so I tend to be drawn to a lot of different animal symbology, and that within itself can hold an energy frequency that is empowering. There might be words that you want to put on your vision board, or affirmations or mantras. There could be plants that you want to put on your vision board. I'm drawn to a lot of plants, and sometimes I really enjoy the energy that it brings. And it can, you know, plants are ruled by the earth element, and it feels very in touch for me when I think of like healing energy. So those are things that are really positive for the Aquarius mind to do, is to kind of think about, like when it's hitting in this identity area, is to think about how you can build that confidence or that kind of those ideas about yourself in a way that help you live your most authentic self. Whether you think that it's authentically you or not is a separate issue. It's just more of what your intuitive somatic body is drawn to. Once we move into well, let's talk about Venus. So Venus is in Pisces from 6 degrees until the end, so 29 degrees of Pisces. And the area that that's hitting for the Aquarius chart is the area that has to do with finances. And so this is actually a really positive placement. Whenever we have Venus passing through a financial house, it's great. It means that we're getting blessed financially in some way. It also has to do with self-worth. And so when Venus is passing through this area, it's really positive to work on our relationship to what we feel like we're worthy of, or our own personal value to ourselves, or even in the world. This area of the chart has more to do with our own sense of self-worth, not necessarily how other people perceive us. But I always think that our own sense of self-worth dictates how we put ourselves out into the world. And so if our own inherent self-worth is not in a good place, the way that we're interacting with others, whether it's in our job or relationships or our friendships, if we don't believe that we're worthy, people oftentimes treat us that we're not worthy, right? So the way that we treat ourselves and the way that we hold ourselves is how other people will receive us. And so Venus is here to kind of bless that area of your chart and help you build confidence and stability around that. And so if you're feeling like you want to work on that or lean into that or work on the spiritual side of that, Venus in Pisces is really positive for you in that way. Venus is going to enter Aries right after we enter Pisces season. And so Venus will be in Aries in the area of the chart starting on the 20th that has to do with your communication. And so Aries is a very assertive sign, confident sign, and aggressive sign. And for some people, the Aries confidence can come off in a negative way if you're a softer person. For other people, it can come off in a really fun, passionate, hilarious way. And Aries people can kind of have a very serious, assertive, aggressive side to them, while also having this really funny, outgoing, hilarious, giggly side to them. And so depending on what your relationship is to assertive, confident energy, Aries can be received in many different ways. As a Leo, Sag rising, double fire sign. I personally love Aries people. I've always got along with them. There's like a flippant nature that I have that they have, and it just is very kismet. But I know people where Aries energy just feels really intense and aggressive. And so during Venus in Aries, for the Aquarius person, I think most Aquarius people that I know, obviously your whole chart dictates how you operate in the world, but I'd say most Aquarius people that I know come off sometimes, I mean, they're air signs. They come off airy, they come off a little bit more argumentative and pushy, but in a light way and an airy way. And I think that Aquarius and Aries are not always in harmony with each other because they express each other so differently, but they both have things to gain from each other. And so Aquarius is really good at seeing community and friendship and groups and the whole picture, and also not being concerned with the status quo and going against the grain and fighting for what it believes in. Aries also shares those qualities. Aries is also really good at fighting for what it believes in and going against the grain and going or going with the grain, but leading it, being at the top. And one of the things that Aquarius sometimes lacks is assertiveness, because Aquarius will be so others focused or focused on making everybody around them good. And so one of the things that might be beneficial during Venus in Aries for the Aquarius individual is gaining more confidence around holding your own, being more independent, being more self-reliant, being more assertive, finding ways to speak directly and intentionally, or even your relationship to your own anger. I think that sometimes Aquarians can have a people-pleasing nature because they do enjoy being a part of community and the group and wanting things to work. And maybe this is a time where you're learning how sometimes it's okay to stand up for yourself, even in communities that you want harmony in, even with people that you love. And maybe sometimes it is good to be selfish with your own needs first, instead of constantly thinking about how you can be an activist or an advocate for everybody else. And so there might be some of this return to, how can I feed myself before I start helping everybody else? I think that's something that a lot of Aquarius people benefit in knowing. Aquarians tend to gravitate towards philanthropy and volunteer work and wanting to kind of be of service to the world of their communities in that way, activism, which is great. But a lot of times what happens if you overly emphasize those areas of your life, you burn out and you're not filling your own cup, or maybe you feel selfish for wanting to fill your own cup. Venus in Aries is said sometimes to be a selfish placement when people have it natally. It's a very self-focused energy when it comes to loving yourself and filling your own cup. And so there could be some benefits to learning that polarity for Aquarius this season. Jupiter is in Aries currently and is going to be in Aries for all of February, 6 degrees through 11 degrees of Aries. And Jupiter being here already for the month of February is already enhancing that energy for Aquarius. This is a great time to expand your vocabulary, learn how to stand up for yourself, not just other people or other groups of animals or people, and find constructive ways to communicate what your needs are, your anger, boundaries, all that kind of stuff. And when Venus meets up with Jupiter at the end of February, which will be on the last day of February, you're going to get an extra little boost in that way. One of the downfalls of Aries sometimes is that we can become too self-focused with our communication, forget to listen. And so one of the things to make note of with this is it's also important that just because we're learning how to advocate for ourselves doesn't mean that we stop listening to other people. It doesn't mean that we stop validating other people's experience. It's not an all or nothing thing. It's a balance. And so the hope is that Venus and Jupiter in Aries will help you find that balance if you're somebody that falls more into the Aquarian stereotypes of people pleasing or focusing too much on the whole or the group or everybody else. Mars has been in Gemini since the end of August and went retrograde at the end of October, and then direct through the first half of, it went direct in the middle of January. And Mars is going to be making its last way through Gemini through the whole month of February and first half of March. And so the area that this has been hitting the Aquarius chart has to do with your, let's see here, your self-expression. So again, your relationship to identity and how you're expressing yourself is the huge theme for February. And you've already had Mars here having you work through a lot of that stuff. Like, how do I express myself authentically, creatively? How do I find joy in my life? How do I value joy in a way where I can actively participate in it? Self-expression and your identity and confidence is kind of your number one theme for February. And so reflect on from August until now what you've been working through in that way. And of course, I have certain Aquarians in my mind that I'm thinking of, and I'm thinking of so many things that happened where I'm like, wow, that's crazy now that I'm thinking about it, how accurate this is for them. But you know, if you've been having to advocate for yourself in a new job or a creative project or romantic partnership, those types of things, and finding constructive ways to do it. I don't think everybody takes this way, but I think sometimes advocating for ourselves sounds like a fight, and Mars feels like a fight when we're in it, but advocacy for ourselves does not have to be a fight. And so when Venus is coming through and making her way through a lot of these signs, she's going to come through and clean up a lot of that energy. She's going to, like, once Venus enters Gemini, there's going to be a lot of resolution around some of these themes, which that's not going to be happening for a while. Let's see when Venus enters Gemini. Venus will be in Gemini the last half of April. So if we think about all of February, the first half of March is us cleaning up this Mars energy. And then Venus comes through and is really bringing some resolution by the end of April. It makes sense. The whole combination of things is very harmonious in that way. All right, so we're going to get into the moon. So we have a full moon in Leo at 16 degrees on February 5th. And Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius. So they're the two fixed yang signs in astrology. They represent fixed masculine energy. And so fixed energy stabilizes, it grounds, and it helps us build something. The fixed signs are considered to be the manifesting signs. And in Aquarius, we're focused on improving the world, essentially, and having community and groups that we're a part of that improve the world that we live in. In Leo, we're focused on improving ourselves and sharing and celebrating that with others, almost for entertainment, but also from a heart space. Leo loves to cheerlead people and itself. It loves to be kind of the let's cheerlead and share. And Aquarius likes to be the advocate and the activist. Let's empower and protect. And so we have this polarity going on with the full moon. And so the area of the chart that this hits for the Aquarius horoscope has to do with personal relationships and identity. Who am I and who is the other? And how do we live harmoniously and still be our authentic selves? And so that's a big theme for the full moon energy for an Aquarius individual, sun or rising sign. So again, similar themes. How do you creatively express yourself? How do you romantically connect? How do you validate each other? Validation is huge for Leo and for Aquarius in different ways. How do we cheerlead each other? How do we support each other? How do we love each other in ways that support who we are in our authentic selves? And you might be feeling a huge need for romance and connection with your partner or anybody during this time. It's a great time to connect with friends for you as well that you're super close with in that way. The other thing about this full moon is it's going to be squaring your Aquarius's ruling planet Uranus. And so where this is hitting, the square energy is hitting for the Aquarius chart is the area of home and family. And so again, we might be having some big insights that we weren't expecting around the 5th. Uranus in the area like of home is not the best usually, but it's been there already for a long time for an Aquarius rising person. But it could be sudden issues with the home that you weren't anticipating that maybe you have to spend money on, and it's kind of frustrating. There could also be, like, especially in Taurus, there could be construction that needs to happen that you weren't anticipating, or improvements that need to happen that you weren't anticipating. Also issues with family members that you weren't anticipating. So the fifth does have this square energy with the moon that could be a little bit disruptive because it's in your area of personal relationships and family. It could have to do with that relationship more than the actual home itself, or both. Could be all of it. So those are things to kind of be mindful of and watch out for, but great time to set intentions around those themes as well. The new moon happens the day after we enter Pisces season. So we enter Pisces season on the 19th, and then we have a new moon after that at 1 degree Pisces on the 20th. And this new moon is a great time to be setting intentions around your relationship to self-worth and money. So a lot of the themes that we talked about in the beginning with Venus in Pisces, this is another great time for you to set intentions around self-love and self-worth. And then Venus will be in Aries with Jupiter and kind of enhancing all of that. So also great time for you to set intentions around material and financial stability. So if there's things that you need to do to build more of that in your life, that new moon is a great time to set intentions for that. All right, Aquarius, happy birthday. That's your horoscope, and I will see you next month.